Have you ever felt that sinking pit in your stomach when she texts you? But something feels off. Like her words are warm, but her eyes, her energy, say something completely different. Most men brush it off. They tell themselves, "I'm overthinking it." But here's the truth no one wants to admit. She's already mentally somewhere else. And the moment you ignore this, the moment you rationalize away the signs, you've already lost. Let's be brutally honest. Women don't just emotionally invest for fun. When a woman starts drifting, it's not subtle confusion. It's a shift in priorities. She's subconsciously measuring how much value you bring versus someone else. And before you think I'm exaggerating, consider this. Attraction isn't just about chemistry, it's about certainty. Women feel, with an almost instinctive clarity, who will consistently make them feel safe, desired, and emotionally fulfilled. The moment that certainty slips, her mind begins to wander. And here's the kicker. It's rarely about you personally. It's about her subconscious calculation of potential security and satisfaction. Now, imagine this. She says things like, "I don't know what I want right now," or "I'm just busy," while her social media is filled with laughter, inside jokes, or cryptic messages directed at someone else. Those are not coincidences. They are silent declarations of interest. Every missed text, every delayed response, every carefully measured word is like a breadcrumb leading towards someone new. And yet, most men respond with more attention, more effort, hoping that persistence will win her back. It rarely works, because persistence cannot compete with emotional investment she's already giving elsewhere. Here's the critical point most men fail to grasp. You're not just competing with a man who's already charming her in subtle ways. You're competing with the imagination she's projecting onto him. She's already rehearsing scenarios, dreams, and conversations in her mind that exclude you. And your job, unknowingly, is to read these signs before it's too late. Most men never see it until the damage is irreversible. So let me ask you, have you been noticing small shifts, phrases, tones, delayed messages, and convincing yourself they're harmless? Because every dismissive word, every half-hearted laugh at your jokes, every "I'll text you later," could be a quiet declaration that her mind is exploring someone else's world, while you're still trying to fit into the one she's leaving behind. Recognizing this early is not defeat, it's clarity. Women speak in layers. Every sentence, every casual phrase, carries more meaning than the words themselves. And when she's already leaning toward another man, 6 specific types of phrases begin slipping into her language, almost unconsciously. These aren't dramatic declarations. They're quiet, subtle admissions that only someone paying close attention can decode. The first type is the comparison. She might say things like, "He just gets me," or "I wish someone understood me like that." To an unsuspecting man, it sounds innocent, maybe even friendly. But here's the psychological truth. She's drawing a mental line between you and someone else. She's creating a narrative where someone else occupies the space you once held, and your role in her emotional world is diminishing without you even realizing it. This is a signal, not a suggestion. Next, listen for the conditional phrases. Words like, "maybe we should," or "if only things were different." Conditional language in her conversation often masks decision-making. Her mind is rehearsing alternative scenarios, mentally testing life with someone else. Men often dismiss this as indecision, but psychologically she's already exploring a parallel path where you are not the main character. That's the silent danger. Then come the emotional distancing phrases, "I've just been busy," or "I don't know what I'm feeling right now." These are classic markers of disengagement. When a woman is emotionally committed to someone else, she unconsciously uses ambiguity to create space. Space that allows her mind to wander toward the man she's already favoring. Every vague response, every delayed acknowledgement, is a quiet withdrawal, a subtle signal she's reallocating her emotional energy. Another layer is excitement displacement. If she casually shares moments, texts, or jokes about someone else with enthusiasm, pay attention. Her tone, the laughter in her words, the attention to detail, it's all proof that her emotional system is already rewarding a different connection. And this is why persistence and pleading rarely work. She's not just losing interest in you, she's actively gaining attachment elsewhere. Finally, notice the phrases that absolve her responsibility. It's not you, it's me. Or, I just need space. These are not random excuses, they're subconscious confessions. She's already making room for someone else, and her words are her way of softening the truth before it's revealed. Men often hear these phrases and rationalize them. Maybe she's just tired, or she's stressed. But every phrase is a piece of the puzzle. When you begin to decode these signals, the picture becomes unmistakable. Her attention has shifted. The question is, will you see it before it's too late? Now let's talk about what she doesn't say, the language of her body, her presence, and the invisible signals that scream louder than words ever could. Because men are often blinded by conversation, they miss the most important proof, her non-verbal cues. And when a woman is emotionally choosing another man, these signs are impossible to fake consistently. The first and most telling is attention allocation. Watch closely where her eyes wander when you speak, how quickly she disengages from your stories, or how often her phone becomes more interesting than your presence. Women unconsciously prioritize the things that excite them. If her gaze drifts, if her posture shifts toward imagined interactions elsewhere, it's not laziness, it's an unconscious alignment with someone else. Then comes enthusiasm displacement. Notice the laughter, the smiles, and the subtle excitement that appears for messages, calls, or mentions of another man. You'll see micro-expressions, tiny flashes of joy, eyebrow lifts, quick glances that are almost impossible to control. She's rewarding him with her subconscious approval, while your efforts may now be perceived as routine, predictable, or even burdensome. Next, consider physical proximity, or the lack of it. When she's mentally moving towards someone else, touch becomes scarce, moments of intimacy fade, and she may unconsciously create physical distance even when she's near you. You may mistake it as stress, fatigue, or mood swings, but in reality, her body is signaling a shifting allegiance. The human brain cannot fully separate emotional attachment from physical cues, and these small distances are her mind's way of marking territory for someone else. Another signal is social energy. Pay attention to the way she interacts with others, especially mutual friends or acquaintances. When she's laughing more freely, sharing more details, or displaying heightened energy around someone else, it's a silent declaration of preference. Emotional investment always leaks outward. If she's mentally invested elsewhere, you will feel the withdrawal, even without her saying a single word. Finally, there's subtle avoidance. She may cancel plans at the last minute, respond in half-hearted ways, or redirect conversations when you attempt to get deeper. Most men interpret this as a temporary setback. In truth, it's a protective measure. Her mind is already prioritizing someone else, and her behavior is aligning to create space for that new attachment. Here's the harsh truth. Non-verbal cues are more honest than any apology or explanation she gives. Words can deceive, excuses can mislead, but the body rarely lies. If you are paying attention and still ignoring these signs, you're willingly stepping into emotional irrelevance. Awareness is your first weapon, clarity is your shield, and action, calculated, decisive action, is your only path forward. The phrases that reveal her mind has already moved on. These 6 phrases are subtle, almost invisible if you're not trained to notice, but once you hear them, the truth hits like a punch. She's no longer choosing you. And most men hear these phrases and do nothing. They rationalize, excuse, or plead. Don't be that man. The first phrase is, I just need some space. On the surface, it sounds harmless, maybe even reasonable. But psychologically, It's a signal she's creating mental and emotional distance. Space isn't just physical, it's emotional bandwidth being redirected elsewhere. When a woman says this repeatedly, she's subtly preparing to invest in someone else while letting you linger in uncertainty. The second phrase is, "I don't want to hurt you." It's a classic preemptive defense mechanism. She knows her attention is shifting, and her words are designed to soften the blow before reality lands. Pay attention. The more she repeats this, the more her mind is already rehearsing life without you at the center. Third, maybe it's better if we're just friends. Friendship is the final safe harbor before emotional disengagement. She's trying to reframe the relationship in a way that allows her to mentally attach to someone else without guilt. Men hear friends and feel relief or hope, but it's actually the starting line of her emotional withdrawal. Fourth, I don't know what I'm feeling right now. Ambiguity is a tool of emotional redirection. She's giving herself permission to explore interest elsewhere while keeping you tethered to uncertainty. If she truly cared for clarity, she wouldn't use this phrase repeatedly. It's designed to protect her from accountability while signaling her mental shift. Fifth, I think I'm falling for someone else. Some men will hear this and panic, but psychologically, this is honesty masked as hesitation. Her heart is already tilted. She's testing the waters of emotional exposure with you, measuring your reaction, and signaling her pivot without full confrontation. Finally, the most dangerous phrase, "I'm happier when I'm with him." This is the silent declaration of allegiance. When she says this, or even implies it, it's the final sign that her mind and emotions are already invested elsewhere. Your efforts cannot compete with the subconscious pleasure she's deriving from another man. Recognizing these phrases isn't defeat, it's empowerment. It's the clarity you need to protect your time, your energy, and your dignity. Most men continue hoping, pleading, and negotiating. The men who succeed are the ones who decode these phrases early and act, not out of anger, but out of strategic clarity. Here's the truth most men don't want to hear. Once she's emotionally leaning toward another man, traditional strategies, chasing, begging, or over-communicating, will only push her further away. The men who navigate this successfully aren't trying to win her back in the conventional sense. They operate from control, self-respect, and clarity, principles she instinctively notices and subconsciously respects. Step 1 is detachment without drama. Emotional detachment doesn't mean coldness. It means acknowledging reality and refusing to center your life around someone who is already investing elsewhere. Men often interpret silence or distance as weakness. In reality, it's power. By reclaiming your time, attention, and energy, you become a presence she cannot manipulate or take for granted. Absence amplifies your value because humans, including women, measure significance by scarcity and consistency. Step 2 is observation without obsession. Pay attention to her words, her actions, and the patterns we've discussed, but do not engage in over-analysis or stalking her every move online. Observation is strategic. Obsession is self-sabotage. You're mapping the emotional landscape, not trying to control it. When she senses you're aware but unmoved, she will either confront her attachment honestly or reveal her true priority, sometimes in ways words never could. Step 3 is self-investment. This is where most men fail. They fixate on her choices instead of upgrading themselves. Physical fitness, social status, emotional intelligence, and clear purpose are not just surface-level improvements, they're magnetic signals. Women subconsciously weigh these factors when making choices, even when she's partially invested elsewhere. The stronger, more grounded, and more fulfilled you become, the less she can ignore your presence, even if her attention has shifted. Step 4 is communication without desperation. If confrontation is necessary, speak with clarity and emotional neutrality. Avoid ultimatums, accusations, or manipulative tactics. State what you've observed, what you feel, and what you expect in terms of boundaries. Men who panic or attempt to guilt her often reinforce her shift towards someone else. Men who communicate calmly, assertively, and confidently disrupt her mental narrative because they refuse to play the background role she's drafting for someone else. Finally, step 5 is acceptance and action. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It means you recognize reality, reclaim your power, and decide what role, if any, she plays in your future. Action is decisive. You either invest in yourself and let the connection evolve on your terms, or you exit with dignity. This choice is yours alone, and it is the ultimate test of a man's psychological strength. Here's the hardest truth to swallow. Love alone cannot keep her if her mind and heart are elsewhere. Attraction is not just emotional, it's psychological, subconscious, and often invisible until the consequences hit. Men who fail to recognize this spend years chasing illusions, investing effort into a relationship that is no longer mutual. The men who survive and thrive are those who see clearly, act decisively, and honor their own value above desperation. Think about it. Every delayed text, every half-hearted laugh, every ambiguous phrase isn't random. They're deliberate markers of attention. Either she's giving it to you or withholding it for someone else. Your task is to read these markers with precision. Most men fail because they want things to be different than they are. They hope, rationalize, and make excuses. But hope without awareness is blind, and rationalization without action is wasted time. Now here's where most men get it wrong. They see these signs and immediately respond with pressure. Calls, gifts, long messages begging for clarity. That's emotional surrender disguised as effort. Instead, what creates magnetic tension is presence, dignity, and non-attachment. When you become a man who controls his emotions rather than chasing hers, you flip the psychological script. You no longer chase validation, you radiate it. And that, paradoxically, is often what makes her reconsider. Or, if she doesn't, you're already free, unburdened by someone who has mentally chosen another. Here's the final lesson, and it's crucial. Clarity is power. Recognize the 6 phrases, decode the nonverbal signs, observe without obsession, communicate without desperation, and invest in your own growth relentlessly. This is not about manipulation. It's about psychological mastery and self-respect. Women, consciously or subconsciously, respond to certainty, confidence, and control. If she's already choosing someone else, your ultimate weapon is your refusal to compete in her game while you remain the best version of yourself. Before you go, I want you to do something that will anchor this lesson. Think deeply about this equation. If your energy, time spent, plus emotional investment, and she's investing elsewhere, what is the value of your energy in this relationship? Comment your answer below. Reflect honestly. And if this video opened your eyes, like it, subscribe, and share it with a friend who desperately needs to hear the truth today. Your clarity can be the wake-up call for someone lost in denial.